2 weeks ago, I set out to create a puzzle map built entirely around the mechanics of the fishing rod. And what started as a simple idea turned into one of the most confusing, frustrating, but ultimately one of the most rewarding projects I've ever done. It started when my brother and I were messing around in a parkour world, kind of fighting with our fishing rods. I realized that the fishing rod actually has so many unique mechanics that would make for an awesome multiplayer map. But I committed early on to make sure that the map would feel polished and complete, not just a concept. So I started on a prototype, and this is what I landed on. Alright, I've only got 3 levels built so far, but there's some things I've locked down already, so let's take a look at those. Now the first thing is the theme of the build. It's very minimal, and this is kind of the look I was going for, but also if it's minimal, I don't really have to spend hours detailing everything. I did land on this very white temple, Zelda looking theme, and if it's not obvious, I've got vibrant visuals on. I ended up on the Zelda theme, but I tried many other themes, and for a variety of reasons they weren't really what I ended up going with. This first one I had very early on, you'll see the layout is pretty much the exact same, but there's just water for walls everywhere. And initially I'd kind of thought that I would really lean into this water part of the fishing experience, but I ended up not doing that as much. As you'll see, the water is actually used mostly as an obstacle with minimal decorations. And this is kind of just because the water physics are weird, which isn't ideal, but we'll kind of get into that later. I also had an idea for a theme that was kind of like a big, vast submarine feel. I didn't end up going with this one, mostly because it seemed like it would be too dark and not really fit the feel I wanted to go for. Really just a stylistic choice. Right here's another idea I had for a theme. It was a very minimal, kind of an open void world. And I think this was a theme that was really popular, like 2010s kind of area back when I was playing maps. I don't see it as much nowadays. And it crossed my mind, but there were kind of a few reasons that I didn't want to go with this. The first one, which you'll definitely notice right here, is vibrant visuals really can't handle rendering water like this. I don't know why this is, but then also not really related to vibrant visuals is that having water just flow into the void kind of just opens it up to having problems that I didn't want to deal with. And so I felt like closing it in a box made it a lot more controllable for me to create the puzzles. Honestly, I think it's a cool theme, very nostalgic. I don't really know why people aren't doing these open void world puzzle maps anymore. I kind of miss it. And so once I had this first room built out and the theme decided, I decided I'd get just a couple more puzzles on the board so that I have a good feeling for what we're doing here. I want to throw it out right now. I'm not going to be spoiling many of the puzzles. Most of my examples are going to come from these first 3 puzzles, which I ended up kind of making tutorial puzzles to help the players get a gauge for how the game is working. So if you want to play the map, I won't be spoiling anything other than really these initial 3 puzzles. Another thing we can look at now that we have these first couple puzzles though is the basic mechanics of the game. And so the first mechanic is going to be these silver pressure plates, and these will show up throughout the map in a variety of ways. Like here you'll see it activates a bridge. Later on you'll see we have it activating slime blocks, but really it's just anything inside the room. Now another mechanic I included is these themed flooring. You'll see it's just made out of concrete powder. And in the beginning it's this lime concrete powder, but as you go on you'll see a change of the concrete color, and that's kind of to signify a change in the theme of puzzles, which I thought made it easier to introduce new mechanics without overloading the players, but also made some good segmentation, helping to break up the feel of the puzzles. The third mechanic of these maps is going to be the doors in between, and there's a couple commands that go into how these doors work. We'll get into them in a second, but this is how players get between rooms. And you're going to see in some puzzles the door is not blocked off at the end, and the real puzzle there is just to get to the door. But then there's also going to be many puzzles where the door is blocked off and you have to satisfy a condition to open the door. And this condition to open the doors is where these gold pressure plates come into play. Now in any room that has gold pressure plates, you're always going to notice 2 of them like this, and that's because the map is a duos game. And so the idea is that one player is holding the fishing rod on one pressure plate and the other player is holding down the other pressure plate with their fishing rod. And once they're both activated, you'll get a sound like this. And now all you have to do is move towards the door together, and that will open the door for you. And like I said, I changed these 3 levels into more of a tutorial. And so if you're going through them in the map yourself, you're gonna notice some dialogue comes up as you're going. This is kind of explaining the mechanics of how it actually works. I knew there would be a lot of confusion, maybe trying to jump on the pressure plate to activate it, since that's how they normally work. And so I added these cheeky messages to kind of guide players in the right direction if they're having trouble in this first room. But I did notice while playtesting that neither of the playtesters read any of the messages, they just got confused. So maybe I need a more pushy way to tell people. And now I am the commands man. So as you can see, the whole map is powered by these command blocks. Most of them right here in this initial platform, but you will see we do have some going on under the puzzles, and then some working with the redstone to go with the pressure plates a little bit. And I gotta say, this is one of the smaller command creations I've done in a while, but it's a little deceiving because while there's not too many mechanics, these gave me a lot of trouble just trying to figure out how to make them work with 2 players. I'll try to give you a quick rundown of all the basic mechanics of the game. Starting with water kills you. I made a short about this, and it's honestly not too much more complex than that, but if you end up touching water, it'll play this sound and then you'll die and you'll have to restart the level. And this resets the pressure plates as well, so you can't just activate them and then die and take a different path. This also gets rid of fishing hooks so that you can't hold them between deaths. And I turned on instant respawn, so it's pretty seamless when you do fall in the water. And that's these rows of command blocks right here. These 2 on the end is just making armor stands invisible. This is because we use armor stands to test for the points. So when I clear the invisibility, you'll see we've got some armor stands right here. These are the 2 points in the first level, and then this one is going on at the exit. Those are the only 3 points that we need, and it's very easily scalable. So if you want to add your own puzzles to the map, I would encourage it, and I've left you these spawn eggs to help you right here. You'll see we have 1, 2, and end. This is all the points that you need for 1 level. And so that's where the rest of these command blocks come into play. And so starting with these groups of command blocks, this is point 1, this is point 2, and I'll make a little demo here to show you what's going on. And so when you want to add some pressure plates to a level, you'll just use these 1 and 2 spawn eggs. And you'll see I have 2 pressure plates here. We'll put the number 1 spawn egg under this one, and then we'll put the number 2 spawn egg under the other. And it actually functions 10 blocks above where we spawned it. And this is because armor stands can interact with fishing hooks. And so you'll get these particles. That's how you know it's working. And it'll test for your fishing hook within 1 block of these particles. And once your fishing hook is seen, the comparator will activate. And then this command block will also test for your fishing hook within that same area, but 1 second later, just to make sure you're holding it for a second. You can't cheese it by your fishing rod falling off immediately, or just making sure players solve the puzzles in the intended way, really. And you'll see here, when I put my fishing rod on, wait 1 second, and right there you'll get redstone. But you'll see if I do the other pressure plate, that other piece of redstone will be hit. And so when you have both pressure plates activated, both those redstone will be there, and it will complete this circuit. Now when that circuit's completed initially, this is going to add a tag to the armor stand so that we know this level is cleared, and now you have to make it to the exit to finish it. And then it'll also play this sound to let you know you progressed to the exit, and then it's going to put a redstone block right here. And this is just testing that both players have made it to the door together, and then it will open the door and you can progress to the next level. Now, testing for these 2 players at the door together was where I ran into a lot of trouble, but ultimately it's just a scoreboard that will count up 1 time for every player there is near it at the exit, and then if it counts to 2, it knows that you're both at the exit together. Not too complicated, but it took me a while to figure out. Dude, look at that specularity, the reflection on the command blocks. I never really imagined them being shiny, but it does fit, I guess. But with these mechanics working, I was able to get these first 3 puzzles set up, and then I moved on to creating some more puzzles. But I ran into a problem I wasn't expecting, because I had what felt like an endless amount of ideas for puzzles I could make, but then actually making them was taking a lot longer than expected. This is where I started to lose a bit of my momentum, because I would make a puzzle and then I would try and test it myself in my head, and I would find possible exploits. I'd have to redo it and then redo it, and it felt like I was making a puzzle for myself more than you guys. But that's not where it ended, because after I actually had a puzzle made, I would have to make this huge box around it to fit that temple feel, which ended up taking almost an hour a puzzle. And I won't lie, I kind of regretted choosing this temple feel at one point, but I'm glad I stuck with it because it looks really cool in the end. I was aiming for the playtime to be around 1 hour worth of puzzle solving, but making that many puzzles when they all took this long was starting to feel a little impossible. And so I decided to try something I've never touched before, and that's the Bedrock Editor. Now, if you've never heard of the Bedrock Editor, you're gonna love this because you can open the Minecraft launcher on a computer. I don't know if there's a console equivalent, but then you can come over here to Bedrock Edition, and over here in the creator tools, you can launch the Bedrock Editor. It looks very similar to Minecraft, but also looks very different to Minecraft. And I use this enough, I kind of got some strong feelings about this. I can make a whole video just talking about this Bedrock Editor because there's some crazy decisions Mojang decided to make with this. But that's besides the point, because I was using the Bedrock Editor, and at first it was really hard to get a feel for what was going on, but it was marginally faster, so I decided to keep using it. But as I used it a little more and I got some practice, I was able to land on a workflow where I could build the puzzles and kind of get a skeleton for the temple around it, and then I could hop into the Bedrock Editor and I could quickly get out some of these huge details, which saved me tons of time and really got me back on track to finish this puzzle map. And now that I had this workflow going, I was able to make the puzzles a lot faster, get some themes cranked out, and I got a good number of them that I was happy with. And so I was thinking I was getting pretty close to being done with this project. And so I decided to invite my brother to come playtest the map with me, get his thoughts, and really iron out any wrinkles before I put the finishing touches on everything. And let me tell you guys, this was the best and worst thing I could have done for this map. Because let me tell you, my brother's pretty good at Minecraft. He actually was the one who inspired me to make a Minecraft YouTube channel. So I got him up on the call and we started going through the puzzles. And these first tutorial levels, everything was going as planned. He was learning the mechanics and having fun. And then we started getting into some of the more complex puzzles I designed. And he was able to cheese almost half of them. And he's a smart guy, so I honestly didn't think it would take him the full hour to finish them. But he breezed through it in like 20 minutes. Oh, I thought I was cooked. But the problem wasn't that it was just too easy for him. He's a creative guy and he found ways around the puzzles that really weren't intended. He was able to abuse this water mechanic that I told you about early on, and he really was able to just bypass the puzzles in almost half of the rooms. And this was definitely the low point of the experience. That's no knock on him because he did exactly what I asked him to. But just seeing all the puzzles broken really made me wonder if I was going to be able to save this. But I decided to pick myself up by the bootstraps, and I set out to remove all of his exploits. Now some of them were pretty simple, like he just put his head in the water here, and so I made it so that if you have your head in the water, that kills you too. Honestly, I think I should have done that in the beginning, but it was an easy enough fix. Not all of them were quite so simple though. Some required some major changes, and then some also made me realize that I had just made a bad puzzle. Like this puzzle with water columns along the walls, and you're meant to notice these bubbles flowing upward to prompt you to put your fishing rod in, and it would go up to hit a pressure plate at the top. And this idea honestly wasn't that bad, but your fishing rod has to go up pretty high to go out of sight, and then you can't really tell what's going on. So I dropped that puzzle and I came up with something I think is a lot more fun. This first playthrough was a serious hit to my momentum. I had to redo a lot of puzzles, I dropped some, I made some better ones, and ultimately the map came out better for it. At least that's what I told myself. But it was time to put that theory to the test, and that's where my next brother came in. So I got my other brother to hop on a call and we started going through the puzzles. And it went a lot more like I was expecting. It took us just under an hour to get through all the puzzles. And he definitely had some ideas for how to cheese them, but none of them worked, so I'm pretty sure it's foolproof now. We made our way through the entire map, no cheese detected. He actually played every single level as intended, which was awesome to see how they actually worked. But then it came down to the final moment. Was it actually fun?
How you doing?
So you remember that Minecraft map we played like a week ago or so? What'd you think?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. It was a little confusing at times. I do really like the fishing rod mechanic. It's really cool. Yeah.
And there you guys have it, the brotherly seal of approval. But to be real with you guys, I'm honestly very proud of this map. I learned so much more than I expected to, and I think that's a testament to why you really need to commit to a project. Because there were many points when things just weren't working out and I considered giving up, or even worse, just pretending like some of these flaws weren't a big deal. But going back and fixing these problems is what forced me to learn the most. And a lot of those puzzles that had to be redone are some of the best ones in the map. So if you want to play the map, then I've left a link to the page in the description of this video. And if you don't have a duo to play with, then maybe go check out our Discord, because I'm sure you'll be able to find someone in there who wants to try the map with you. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, then consider dropping a like, and you might want to check out my channel if you like these kind of command creation videos. Maybe even check out this video, because YouTube thinks you specifically will enjoy it. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.